Hey book friends, so let's play a little game to get us started. I'm going to talk to Tishka and I'm going to drop the titles of the 9 books that I read in July, and I'm going to try to conceal them to the best of my ability in a short amount of time. So try to count how many book titles I drop. Look at this precious little angel, I swear. He is just the best pet in the world. Look at him go. Tishka, stop eating grass. Tishka, stop. Tishka is getting some walking practice in this morning. He's down on all fours, sniffing that grass. Yep, summertime here in holiday country, living our best lives. I am just here drinking some coffee, although I didn't put enough sugar, so it has kind of a bitter aftertaste. Look at this little boy trying to chew on grass. All right, let me tell you a secret about Tishka, but this stays between us. He might look like an angel, but he's actually a bit of a menace. I still love him. We were at the dog park the other day, and there were like 15 dogs chasing him, and he just kept barking and provoking them. He was so exhausted by the end. He was like, "Mom, I am just done and dusted." And let me tell you about this horrible book I read this month. It could very much be like the death of me, certainly the death of the author and her reputation. Hey friends, so let me know how many of the titles that you heard. We had a pretty good reading month. I chose these books based on the Quick to Judge challenge that I did a few weeks ago, where I read like the first paragraph of a few different books, and that's kind of like how I chose my TBR, like which ones are interesting to me. And even though I didn't have like that many high ratings, I just like really enjoyed checking out all these books. A lot of them had been on my TBR for a while, and other ones were like recommendations from other booktubers. So, yeah, I'm just happy about it. And let's start off with, I want to go from best to worst because I feel like I had quite a few like 2-star books, and I don't want to just start off with the lowest ones. So, let's start with a banger. Pet by Catherine Chidgey. I gave this 5 stars, and I got this rec from the Ellen Made Book Club. So thank you, Ellen. You're awesome. Go Sweden. So this is a historical fiction literary thriller set in New Zealand in the 1980s. And we have this protagonist, Justine. She's like 12, and she goes to this Catholic school. It's like really strict. And she, like, her mom died recently, and she's very impressionable. All the kids, like, yeah, they're just very at this age where they're like really malleable and easily influenced and like super cruel to each other. And they all are obsessed with this very glamorous new teacher named Mrs. Price. You can see she's just cool. Like she wears nice clothes and she has like a cool car. And she's a little mysterious and like everyone wants to be around her. Justine becomes her newest pet. And will do anything for her. Like she's obsessed with her. And basically like we get the impression that like something is kind of off with this teacher. Like I won't say what happens, but like things are going missing from all the students' desks and like no one knows who it is, but they're all kind of like blaming each other, and everything is going missing from people except from one student, and that girl is Justine's best friend. So basically like a lot of the suspense is like about who Justine chooses to support, like the teacher or her best friend. And there's also some other themes like racism, um, like mental health and just illness in general. Also, like some Catholicism stuff that goes on. Like this is like an old Catholic school, and so some of the kind of like rules and stuff that they have at the school are kind of shocking to read today. And everything like culminates in this like really intense climax of the story that just had my mouth hanging open. And there's also like a little bit of like a ambiguous ending as well. So yeah, it's just a book that is going to be stuck in my mind for a long time, and I just really enjoyed it. So thank you, Ellen, for that rec. Pet by Catherine Chidgey. Okay, let's go on to another booktuber rec. This is from my friend Michelle. It's called Holiday Country from Inci Atrek. This is just such a good like literary fiction summer read. You'll just like really feel like you're on the beach in Turkey reading this. It's about this 19-year-old girl from California who vacations every summer in Turkey with her mom. Her mom is like from there, but she met like the girl's American dad and years ago and moved to California. But like she just like never really made an effort to, what is the word I'm looking for? Enter integrate. She never integrated. She just like stayed in her Turkish community and just became kind of like unhappy and just like she used to be this like really zesty, beautiful young woman and she had like great plans. She like studied some kind of like engineering or something like that and then kind of just like threw it all away to be with this like mediocre guy that ends up like cheating on her, the dad. And so the mom just finds out that the dad was cheating on her and she's all depressed and they're in Turkey and the protagonist, I already forgot her name, I feel bad. She wants her mom to feel better and like become the woman she once was. And so there is this very alluring man that shows up, and it's someone from the mom's past. And she seems to think that maybe her mom can like get her groove back by rekindling things like with this guy. And we just like see that she's kind of like delusional and like really immature. The strong points in the book, I think, are like the very vivid, beautiful setting and the characters that just feel really real. Like, I loved the grandma. I thought she was just hilarious. She always had really funny lines. But yeah, I got a little bit bored in the second half of the book, and like sometimes like some icky things kind of happen. But overall, like I thought it was really good. Very nice descriptions of Turkey. Yeah, so recommend this one. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, now we are in 3-star territory. Aftertaste by Daria Lavelle. Okay, I think like a lot of people will really like this. Like when I read reviews, I think I'm kind of like an outlier on here. I didn't really like it. I thought this was really corny. Uh, it's about this like Ukrainian American guy who is just like super sad and whiny, and he's like, "Oh, my dad died when I was young," and um, they like their last conversation was like a bitter one. They had some kind of argument, and then his dad died, and his whole life he's been able to like taste. Like he gets random tastes that come into his mouth, and it will be like a specific dish and he learns that this is like ghosts. So instead of seeing them, he can like taste their favorite food. And he ends up like becoming a chef and he wants to try to help people like reconnect with their deceased loved ones and help them like have like a final moment together. So that's what this book is about. Although it's also like other things too. Like a lot of it is like this really kind of cheesy romance. Like everything was like, oh, my dad, my dad, my dad, I'm so sad. And then he meets this girl, and I swear there must have been like 2 scenes with her, most of them being like, oh, she had purple hair, she was hot. And then quickly, like, there are these big professions of feeling. And I don't know, I just like, it was too much for me. It was really cheesy and it felt like it was trying to be like ghost story, romance, like food. And I thought the best part of this book was like the descriptions of food. Wow, like she really knows how to write about food. It made me so hungry. But I don't know. As a whole, I just like didn't really like it very much. A little bit too cheesy, corny, feel good type of thing. But then on the other hand, like it would have these like really dark things sometimes, like suicide ideation is like something that goes on in here, and I thought like that just didn't mix at all with like all the soapy romance stuff going on. So yeah, and in general I wasn't really into it until like the last like third or even fourth of the book, and then like so much stuff happens and it's a little bit confusing, and it does have quite a moving ending, so I'll give it that. But as a whole, yeah, didn't love this. Gave it 3 stars. My next 3-star read was 15 Dogs by Alexis. This one is about, okay, the Greek gods Hermes and Apollo. They're in this like pub in Canada and they're like, "Oh, humans like are so like sad all the time. They're always complaining, but like dogs are so happy. And I wonder what would happen if you gave dogs like human intelligence and like language. Like, do you think that they would be happy or sad?" And so they make this bet, saying like, no, like dogs are not going to be happy. And we watch these dogs. It's they give intelligence to this group of dogs in like a veterinary clinic in somewhere in Canada. Was it Vancouver? No, Toronto. And so we see the dogs like start running around being smart. And some of the dogs are like they enjoy being smart, and other ones like they just get freaked out by how unnatural it feels. And so we're just kind of like watching what happens to them. It's a little bit philosophical, but it was also kind of charming. It did actually make me like tear up a couple of times. But yeah, it was a little bit hard to read. So I don't know. I gave this 3 stars. An interesting like idea, but I think you really have to be into like philosophy and like the Greek gods to be able to like really enjoy this. I did like the like dog behavior, like dogs acting like humans. That was kind of funny. The next book I read was a new thriller that just came out. I had an arc for it. Came out July 15th, and it's This Stays Between Us by Sara Ochs. So this is a whodunit set in Australia, and it's about this study abroad group that they were in Australia for like 4 weeks during the summer, and it ends with, well, 2 of them dying actually. And like the protagonist, she's like, "Oh, I'm the one that killed the girl." Her body was just found in a mine, and it's been like 10 years, and this group has stayed in contact all of this time, and they get called back to Australia to, as part of the investigation. And so our character, like the protagonist, is just freaking out because she's like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't want to get caught for this." But anyway, you kind of get the impression that this is not the whole story. Like, what did she really do? And so, yeah, they go back to Australia and things start getting really chaotic. Like, more of them start dying, and you're like wondering who the real killer is. I just like didn't like this at all. Like, I loved her previous book, and that's the reason why I requested this arc. But I just like couldn't get into all these characters. There were like a bunch of them, maybe like 7 characters or something like this. And I was just kind of struggling, and I didn't really care about the protagonist. And when that happens, you just know that like the story is just not going to be for you. So I also had a hard time like believing that all these people became best friends in only 4 weeks, and they stayed in contact for like 10 years. So this one was just kind of doomed for me from the get-go. Um, Maybe you could like it if you're into like whodunits with a big cast of characters, but this just like, yeah, didn't work for me, unfortunately. I think I gave it 2 stars. Okay, Death of the Author. This is a buddy read I did with my friend Curious Cat. Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. This was a buddy read I did with my friend Curious Cat, and this is actually like a science fiction book. I don't often read sci-fi, but like I don't hate it either. It's more like I'll read something even though it's sci-fi, kind of as a challenge. And I had been hearing about this book. I remember first reading an article about this in the New York Times and thinking like, this sounds so confusing. I don't think I'm gonna read this book. It's very meta. This is like also like meta fiction. And that is just kind of mind boggling because it's a story within a story. I'll put a picture up of like the other cover, because there's a story inside called Rusted Robots. So let me try to explain this clearly and quickly and why I didn't like it. Also, I do have a full book review if you want to hear more. It's spoiler free. But we have this like disabled Nigerian American author, and she's not an author yet, but she's trying to get her book published, and she's also like a creative writing professor, and she like loses her job and her book gets like declined again. And so she magically like pens this runaway science fiction novel that just like takes the world by storm, and she becomes super famous. And so the story is like following her life and rise into fame alongside the science fiction story. And they're very like interwoven. They follow like the same themes. So when you're reading about like her life and then you're reading the robot story, you're like constantly seeing things in common. But yeah, I think like maybe my biggest complaint was that there was just like too much going on at the same time. It is kind of a long book. I listened to this as an audiobook and it was like 16 hours long. It was just, even so, like you don't even really get like a full picture of either story, and she's very unlikable. Yeah, if you want to hear more about it, you can watch my book review, but I just didn't really love this, so I gave it 2 stars. Oh, this one is actually 3 star. Walking Practice by Dolki Min. Oh my goodness, this has to be one of the most disturbing books, but also like extremely funny and surprisingly insightful. It's a novella, I think. And this is about this. Okay, sit down. You better sit down for this. This alien crash lands on Earth and doesn't have a gender, but it's like trying to feed itself, and it can't find anything more satisfying than humans. But it has to like be able to catch humans to eat. And so it can like turn itself into looking like a human, either like a man or a woman. And so it goes on dating apps and tries to look sexy for like to catch a human, and then goes on dates and like feeds on humans. And so it's very gruesome, but also extremely funny. Like the writing, the translation is done so well. Her name is Victoria Cottle, the translator. She just did such a good job. She really knocked it out of the park. I love the way that she like wrote these lines, and it's just super interesting. Like the translator's note at the end like makes a lot of sense, like talking about like gender norms and stuff like that. I really liked this book, even though it really kind of freaked me out. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you're like really ready to see some gruesome stuff. Like some of it reminded me of like the scary parts of American Psycho, also the movie The Substance. So yeah, that's Walking Practice. Let's talk about All Fours by Miranda July. Probably the most controversial book of the bunch. Whether or not you like this book or hate it, I think really depends on you. And it's like always surprising to see like how people respond to it, especially because I've had some other booktube friends that also ended up reading this in July. And yeah, it's interesting to hear just like how this one affects people. I was on the end that like didn't really like it. This, if you haven't heard of this one before, it's about this artist who ends up going on a road trip. She's feeling kind of like weird and complacent, and like she's really feeling that she's aging. And she goes on this like road trip to try to like, I don't know, get some excitement in her life. And the road trip gets derailed as soon as she sees this like who she thinks is like a gas station attendant who's like young and sexy, and she's like, oh my gosh, throws away all of her plans to try to like, you know, get with this guy. And the whole rest of the book is just like about her. It's extremely narcissistic, and she is trying to, she's like the horniest person I've ever seen. She's like trying to figure out like what to do with her life and her partner. And so they're kind of like navigating like marriage and monogamy, um, communication. Uh, there's just a lot of like really shocking scenes that I feel like we're just in there to try to be like really edgy, but I didn't really feel like they provided much depth. I was just kind of like bored and like icked out and annoyed by this character who's just extremely unlikable. Like she's selfish and very dishonest. She's lying to her husband and her kid, and like for what? Like I don't know. I learned a lot about menopause, but I didn't like this book. There's also stuff with their dog. I heard a lot of people talking about something with dog poop, and it was really freaking me out because I knew there was a lot of like sexual content in this book, and I was like, okay, well, I have like limits to what I like can read. And what did happen with the dog poop just shows like what a crappy character she is and how just like self-centered she is, that she couldn't even pay attention to her dog. But anyway, that's like my quick rant about All Fours. I gave it 2 stars. My one DNF was Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage. I've been just seeing these covers like for years, and so I finally gave it a try to see if I could be like a cowboy romance type of person. My mind was just constantly going elsewhere when I was listening to this audiobook. I just like couldn't hang, did not find it interesting enough to really listen to. Also, I did kind of tease this book because like it's like a dual narrative, and when the guy is talking, like the chapters where it's him talking, he does like the girl's voice, and he did this like really high pitched sound. And in like the spicy scenes, it was just unbearably cringe to listen to. He'd be like, ah! And that's when I just like decided to stop. Anyway, so those were my 9 books that I read in July. Let me know if you have read any of these. I'm already like several books into August. I just finished She's a Lamb, and now I'm back on to reading My Husband. If you want to know what I'm reading in August, this is Women in Translation Month. So in my previous video, I talked about some of the books I plan on reading in August. And yeah, so I hope that you had a good reading month and you're having a good summer, and we will see you next time. Bye!